afternoon, my friends. This is Paul, and today I want to celebrate Catholic Heart Work Camp again, because you all know how much I can't get enough of the best moment of my life, and you would know that if you watch my 3,000 subscribers special. In case you haven't watched the video where I announced one of the most personalized birthday presents I've ever got, this shirt was given to me by Esabelle and Sipporah Arts and Illustrations as a nice personalized way of just celebrating all of my isms. You got one of my catchphrases. This is a picture from Sipporah's website that I think she drew it, and on the back you've got a whole bunch of references to the various mission trips, as well as a nod to when we went to go visit them in 2022. I was originally going to just have this giant list of references and explain all of them in one video, but that video was way too long, so I figured I'd segment it so that it could be a manageable length. So what I did was I made a list of every ism by year, because I was originally going to do a joke video where I would say, oh, Esabelle has favoritism because she only has this many references in this particular year. So I thought that would help to segment the video, because I'd go from which mission trip she talked about the least to which one she did the most. So I figured I'd do 3.5 mission trips worth of references for this video, so that you can see which mission trips she hated, and go from there. The reason I say 3.5 is because she did have 2 references to stuff that happened before the camp started, so because it wasn't any particular year, and also because a lot of these were like preparations, I put it in an outside category. So first we have You Are Going to Sweat. This is a callback to the instructional video that CHWC gave all of us to prepare for the mission trips, and they had this black and white filter of a guy with a goatee, and he had this really deadpan expression and an extremely deep voice, and he was listing out all the things that the teenager should be expecting at Catholic Heart. So he said things like,
You are going to have cold showers. You are going to sleep on the floor. You are going to eat camp food. You are going to sweat. And you are going to have the most epic time of your life.
way to ruin it, truck outside. And I just thought that was so funny that I had to include it on the list, because he was so serious about all of it. And yet he was right. I think I ended up enjoying Catholic Art Work Camp more than the teenagers did, which, from what I've heard from the staff members, that's usually the case. So a program intended for teenagers appeals more to the adult chaperones. That's some pretty cool program making. The final half mission trip reference we have here is stacking the vans. As our group got bigger and we realized that there were certainly some imbalances as far as how the vans went, the teenagers decided that they wanted someone to moderate the vans, where like they'd have a list of, okay, this person is with this driver and so on and so forth, so that we wouldn't get too overwhelmed. So to give an example of what I mean, on my very first mission trip, I was in a van with all guys except for Rachel. But my brother Michael was in a van where he was the only guy with a bunch of girls, and those girls talked about very girly stuff like shaving their legs and all that made him super uncomfortable. So that's when we started thinking, we better make sure that doesn't happen again. But the teenagers still complained, because they would say like, oh, this person gets this particular driver all the time, and so you're stacking the vans. Eventually they had me do it, and I went around to every individual teenager and I said, are you sure you're okay with this arrangement? I want to make sure I'm getting everyone's preferences, and they seem to really like it, so I guess I managed to break out of the cycle. Now we move on to Esabelle's least favorite mission trip, which is 2018, although to be fair, that mission trip was more so of a collection of awesomeness as opposed to a bunch of silly and crazy moments. So it only has 2 stories. Honestly, she couldn't have done much with that, because that was It was the year that I got miraculously healed, but not a whole lot happened besides that. There were still two very funny stories, though, which hopefully you guys will get a chuckle out of. The first is raining tacos. So, Taco Tuesday has been a thing on every single mission trip I went on, which is another item later on this list that we'll talk about in the future. But for now, Raining Tacos was the song they played during 2018's mission trip as a way of getting those of us in the kitchen excited for making the tacos. But then they also played it when everyone was eating the tacos, and it was played really loudly. Like, you all know that I like my quiet atmospheres, so this was definitely a bit outside of my comfort zone to play it so blaring. And one of the staff members was particularly extroverted, and as some of the teenagers were singing, he was singing along with them. And they played It's Raining Tacos for 4.5 hours straight. But you know what? Those were some of the best 4.5 hours of that entire camp because it's very hard to explain, but something about that song just really got me into the service type of mood. It really made me feel like, oh my gosh, this is like the most epic mission trip of my life. I think it was the piano in one of the refrains. I think that's what did it. I don't know. The music got me going. Next up, we have discrimination against dinosaurs, which that one was so legendary it got an entire video out of it. All of the guys in our group were in a children's playroom as the place where we slept when we were at Sacred Heart Cathedral on our way to the trip. I just had this super random idea where I spotted a pair of dinosaurs sitting around, and so I handed the camera to Nick and I just said, "Start filming," and then in one take, I had the dinosaurs talking to each other in southern accents and complaining about Catholic Heart Work Camp discriminating against dinosaurs. The inspiration for the voices was a combination of the fact that we were in Tennessee and we had just experienced Mass, but with like Tennessee accents, so it was fresh on my mind, but it was also meant to be a hybrid with the accents of some of my coworkers at the time. I wanted to like try to imitate some of their isms while also like being a Tennessean in the process. And I showed it to the group leader and she just died of laughing. Not literally, thank goodness. And hopefully a lot of you like that video as well. You can look it up on your spare time. In my previous mission trip videos, I showed it in its entirety, so hopefully the video clip that I edit in will do it for now so that we can keep this video from going on for too long. Her second least favorite mission trip is 2016, which had 3 stories. Again, can't really blame her for that either because 2016 didn't have a whole lot of crazy memorable moments. Like, don't get me wrong, the only mission trip that I hated was 2015, but some of them were more memorable than others, even if they were better than 2015. So 2016 was still amazing, but it just wasn't very memorable. So the first item we have on the list is Operation Sister Smile. This was inspired by me really loving Once Upon a Time. And I loved how Henry kept having different names for all of the various projects that he was undertaking. The most notable of which was in season 1, he had Operation Cobra, so that he could try to figure out how to regain the memories of the fairy tale characters who were brainwashed. That is very relevant for today's culture, but that's a different video. So I called it Operation Sister Smile because my sister was going through a really hard time. And I had brought a green notebook with me to that trip. Usually I like to get the autographs of people on the trip in my purple notebook so that I can always remember them. I think I amassed a grand total of 600 some odd signatures combined throughout, I think from like 2009 to 2020. So I kept that going really well, and I'm hoping to do it again if I ever get a chance to chaperone. But this year I decided, no, no, I'm going to collect signatures for my sister's sake. And so I had literally anyone I could think of at the camp, teenagers, adults, staff members, everyone. I just said, my sister's in need and I could really use some positive reassurance. I also liked how a lot of them said that because they knew me so well and because I talked about her so much, they said that they already knew her. And when my sister read the notebook, and especially when I like wrote little notes clarifying the age of whoever said it, she was like, that person's only 16 and has that much profound stuff to say, and she was just so impressed by these people's words of affirmation that I think it cured her from what she was bothered by. It wasn't like a snap the fingers and she changed overnight like it was for me at my first four corners, but it still really helped, and she sometimes still looks at it whenever she's feeling down. Then we have Team 1, which was the work team that I was chaperoning that year. Every work team had a number to make it easier to sort out, and I think that was also a contributing factor into which team builders or team reporters would go on the stage every day and report how they saw God within that work project. And so our team was Team 1. I don't know why I found that so funny. I guess I thought that number one was like a we are number one type of thing. So I would always try to find ways to get excited about our team number. Like, for example, we were at a project where there were a whole bunch of other teams working together because the project was so massive, because we were helping to refurbish old apartment rooms. And when it was time for stuff like lunch or going to our group's project, I'd be like, Team 1, congregate! Or I'd say, I am Paul, the captain of Team 1. And then the third and final one from 2016 was blessings from a paintbrush. This might have happened at other camps, but I don't remember. But I know for a fact it happened in 2016. So for those of you that aren't Catholic, it's customary at least once or twice a year for the priest to go around and put this metal reed thing into a jar of holy water and then sprinkle it on the congregation as a way of renewing our baptismal promises. However, because it was Catholic Heart Work Camp, the priest had vestments. Vestments are the types of gowns that the priests wear to represent the priest, prophet, and king status that the Bible talks about. The vestments were stained with paint, and not only that, but he used a paintbrush to get the holy water out of a paint can. Now, maybe he got special permission from the bishop to do that, in which case, I guess that's technically allowed. So the final mission trip we are going to talk about today, to keep this from going on too long, is 2013, her third least favorite mission trip. This had 5 different stories. Honestly, she forgot the funniest one, which was Basil Marceau, but we're going to look past that for this video, again, for the sake of time. Next up, we have my parish's domination. Every single year, Catholic Heart Work Camp likes to film and take pictures of the events going on. And after the photographer slash video recorder is finished gathering all the footage, then one of the media people puts it together into a summary DVD that we watch almost like it's a movie theater in the auditorium on the big screen and everything on Friday morning. And that's the send-off. Well, Mass is technically the send-off. We start out with the video and then we go to Mass. And so when we watched the summary DVD for 2013, we realized, dang, our group killed it on this DVD. Not only did we show up by far the most out of any other group, but there was also a special feature on that DVD called Message to the Next Camp, where Olivia, one of the staff members, went around to 5 people throughout the camp and asked them a bunch of questions about what they thought about the camp. So one of them was, how were you feeling when the camp started? How were you feeling when the camp ended? What are some things you'd like to say to the next group of campers that we're about to present for? And out of the 5 people picked, 3 of them were me, my brother, and my eventual sister-in-law. So without them even realizing it, 3 of us ended up being related. And we all pretty much said the same thing, even though I had no idea that anyone else was being filmed. And I very, very vividly remember exactly what I said in my message to the next camp. I said, if there's something you don't like about the camp, turn it into something positive. For example, Jesus sweated blood in the Garden of Gethsemane, so the least you can do is sweat a bit of water. Hopefully the people at the next camp learned something from that video. If not, at least I tried. Next we have the Garbage Bag Symphony. This was the adult skit that year, where all of the adults would put on garbage bags and white ties to pretend to be members of a symphony. And Phil, one of the other adult chaperones in my group, was dressed in, I forgot the word they used for it, but it was like a full body suit to make him look like an orchestra conductor. And we all pretended to be playing along with the song To the Races. I was the drummer. And I'd like to say that I got really into it. So into it, in fact, that when it got to the part where we were supposed to freestyle and do whatever we wanted, I literally jumped off of the stage and high-fived the guys in the audience to the beat of the song. Next we have Franklin, because that was the year that we were told that we were going to Omaha, Nebraska. But when we got there, we found out that it was actually Fremont, Nebraska, and not Omaha. So John in particular was not too happy about that because he was really looking forward to saying that he was able to go to Omaha, I guess because Omaha is like famous for something. It is the place where the Wizard of Oz grew up, if you ever read the original book. And so as we were passing by various towns, I would say like, "Oh, imagine if we had a mission trip there." So one of the towns we passed by was Franklin. I just said, "Hey, John, wouldn't it be so funny if we went to a mission trip in Franklin?" He's like,
Franklin? I don't want to go to a mission trip in Franklin.
and so that led to us like making jokes about Franklin, like, "Hey, what if you go to the Franklin Galaxy in Super Mario Galaxies?" Then we started naming other galaxies, and it led to a whole spiral of crazy discussions. Next, we have the color test. I'm not 100% sure what this is referencing, but I'm pretty sure it was lunchtime of one of the days where the Catholic Heart had a collection of questions that they wanted us to discuss during our lunchtime that had to do with our faith. And one of them was that they presented a bunch of colors, and each color had a specific reason to it. Like each color is supposed to elicit certain emotions and has like a meaning to it. So, for instance, blue is the color of tranquility, yellow is the color of enthusiasm, red is the color of passion, so on and so forth. Even gray had a positive connotation, and that was included on the list. So when it came time for me to answer the question, I ended up shocking all of the girls in my group. I say all of the girls because my group was only girls. I was the only guy on the group. I don't know what they were thinking there. And I said, I think the color I relate to the most is blue because blue is the color of tranquility and it shows off my more quiet, introverted side. Back then, I still believed I was an extrovert, and I think the camp did as well because I was like really outgoing and I was like excited to share about the Lord and all the things about his greatness that the girls were like, "Yeah, right, you being an introvert? No way, Paul, that's crazy." Then we have the last one we're going to talk about today is Paul's favorite staff member. This is a dual reference because it like there's my actual favorite staff member, but then there's the one that started the meme. The one that started the meme was actually in 2013. That was a girl named Olivia. And, like I said, I carried around a purple notebook and I would ask people to autograph the notebook throughout various conferences and trips that I went to so that I'd remember who I met. And this was anyone that I could think of that I had an impact on. It could be adult chaperones, it could be the keynote speakers, it could be other teenagers. I just wanted to remember as many people as possible. So one of the staff members signed the notebook and she wrote, "From Olivia, Paul's favorite staff member." But my actual favorite staff member was a girl named Amanda, who was the media coordinator for 2016's camp. There was something about her that really stood out to me because she was like in charge of the merchandise stand. And it seemed like every single time I was passing by to go into the main area, she'd always stop me specifically and ask how I was doing, and she'd want to hear all about our work project and how I was seeing Jesus at that particular camp. Now, it could have just been that she was just a really friendly person and there wasn't much more to it than that. But I have a personal little conspiracy theory as to why she and the rest of the staff members singled me out. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I think there's a grain of truth to it. And that was that I had originally signed up to be an associate staff member that year. So to clarify, usually the adult chaperones are put as the leaders of groups of about 5 or 6 teenagers, and then they take the teenagers to work projects, and they work. I probably could have segued that better. Not that I hated working with them, but this year I wanted something a little bit different. So I just said, hey, instead of working directly with the teenagers, I want to work behind the scenes and do stuff like cooking the food and preparing the tables and all that. And I was put on a team of teenagers anyway. I remember the camp manager was like apologizing to me profusely because she was like, I am so sorry, Paul. I know you really wanted to be an associate staff member, but we just had too many adults sign up and we didn't want to overcrowd the kitchen. We needed enough people to help the teenagers. So I hope you understand. I'm like, don't, no, I understand. It's totally fine. I'm willing to work with them. I think the teenagers ended up liking me. They weren't like amazed by me, I don't think, but they didn't hate me either. I think that's why Amanda was overly friendly, was I think she was looking at the list of the adults that were signed up for various things, and I think she felt bad that I couldn't get the position that I wanted, and so that's why she acted so overly friendly to me, because she was like, "Hey Paul, I know you wanted to like work directly with me behind the scenes, so to make up for you not getting your wish, I will talk to you more often so that you can feel like you got that experience." And I got to meet Amanda again at NCYC the following year. Totally uncoordinated. We didn't keep in touch in any way. It just so happened that I discovered the CHWC booth, and there Amanda was promoting the camp. And honestly, I think it's one of the best pictures I have on Facebook. So I'm just so glad that NCYC is one of the best places for epic reunions I've ever been to. So thank you very much for enjoying these stories. Stay tuned for quite a lot more going forward because Esabelle really liked the other mission trips much, much more than these ones. Keep in mind that whenever I show you guys a picture, it is not that I had short hair. I actually just tied it back because it was really hot. I don't typically like tying my hair back, but on mission trips, I don't know, that was kind of the exception. I figured the teenagers would look at the back of my head and realize, like, yeah, he actually has long hair. No, I didn't cut my hair in any of the pictures. It was just tied back. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Let me know which of these memories was your favorite, which ones got the chuckles out of you the most. Let me know which overall year is your favorite if you've watched my other mission trip videos and read the Facebook notes slash watched the Facebook notes. And let me know if you're excited for the future of this series. Special thanks to Esabelle and Sipporah for making this t-shirt that inspired the video in the first place. Special thanks to my patrons Matthew Rakowski, Spoon Ghost, and Splatcat for helping me survive this financial crisis I'm going through. Link will be in the description if you'd like to help. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye!